Okay. What I was going to ask you though, and the bear thing brought this up, and I actually like to ask all through hikers this.
Sure.
Um, what is your scariest encounter you've had backpacking?
Um, Scariest encounter?
Yeah. Creepiest, scariest,
Um, I
weirdest.
haven't I haven't had anything as bad as like a lot of other people, so I'll preface it by saying that. But I I was pretty close to stepping on a rattlesnake on my third hike,
Okay.
and that was pretty gnarly. Mostly because I'm not from rattlesnake territory. I really hadn't ever hiked in rattlesnake territory until I went down in Georgia on the
Yeah.
AT. And I was like super close to stepping on this thing. It wasn't just like I saw it and I was like, oh shit. Like I had my headphones in and I was right about to cross from Georgia into North Carolina. So the very first state crossing on the entire trail, I knew I was close. I knew I was within a half mile or so. So I was really pumped. Like I said, headphones in, I was rocking out. I was just like feeling it, going along. And then it happened so fast that I don't even know how to describe it, but um, just all of a sudden, snake, oh shit, jump back. The thing, it starts rattling, and then the thing that it did that was like the most freaky, which didn't happen on any of the other rattlesnake encounters I had on the trail, was it coiled up. So it was like in
Oh, it's
striking
ready.
position, right?
Yeah.
And this was the very first rattlesnake I'd ever seen in my entire life. And so I was like, I was so like shaken up at first. I was like, I don't know what to do. So obviously, I wasn't close to it. I like jumped away from it, but I was
Yeah.
just like standing there now from a distance watching it. And the thing did not stop rattling for 30 minutes. I stood there
Wow.
for 30 freaking minutes. And in hindsight, I should have just walked around it, like bushwhacked a little bit, but I was so like shaken up. I was just like freaked out or whatever. So I just stood there and it rattled for 30 minutes. Eventually it meandered its way off. And eventually I like cautiously like went by the part of the trail where it was standing and it started to rattle again, like off in the bushes. I was like, freaking hey, this thing is pissed at me. So that's pretty much what happened. It sucked, but I didn't actually step on it, which is great. So that was probably like the scariest thing that happened to me. I had a couple friends who had some pretty gnarly drunk driver
I was gonna
hitchhiking
Oh,
ask you about
encounters.
like so like I was hoping you had a human based story because Andy and I all of the creepy encounters we've had backpacking have
Most of them are
they're
human.
all
Yeah, for
humans.
sure.
So I don't know if you have any good creepy human stories.
I have one. It wasn't from the AT, but it was from when I hiked the Foothills Trail with Flossie in 2019, April 2019. In hindsight, I feel like we might have overreacted a little bit. And we talked about this in one of the videos, one of my first videos actually. But we were at a road crossing on the Foothills Trail, and there was like a little picnic table at some like gap somewhere. You know how like the roads will have like
Yeah.
this little restroom or whatever with it,
Yeah.
at the crest or whatever. And so we stopped at this picnic table to have lunch. I'm a sprawler, so when I take out my food and
That's
my gear
me.
and shit, it's everywhere.
That's
I'm not
me.
very
do you put
organized.
your food at the very bottom of your pack and then you have
No,
to
I
like
put it at the very top. So my food was fucking everywhere. I'm digging through my pack and shit. Um, and this lady, older lady, she was probably in her early 60s, I would say. That's my guess, anyways. Gray hair, completely decked out in Clemson gear,
Oh,
like
nice.
like bright orange. She looked like she was about to go like fucking hunt some like elk or some shit. Bright orange. She had the orange pants too, because I mean we were in North Carolina, South Carolina border area, so pretty close to Clemson.
Yeah.
And she gets out and she comes over, and at first I thought she was just being friendly. We're in the South, like random old people just making small talk or whatever. But Flossie and I pretty quickly realized like there's just something off with her. And again, she was like an older lady, so like physically we weren't threatened,
Yeah.
but like she was on something. Her pupils were really dilated too,
Oh.
and it was just really weird. And up to that point, we were kind of like, okay, this is weird, but like not a big deal or whatever, just fucking weird ass lady. But then she like points to her car and like there's a fucking huge dog in her car, and she's like, "Oh, if I bring my dog out, he'd probably like attack you guys right now."
Oh, that's creepy.
And we were like, "Okay, well," and I looked
what?
over at Flossie, and he had packed up all the stuff, like he was ready to
Oh.
go. And look, we had just sat down and started to eat lunch, and this lady came up to us. When I saw him do that, I was like, that's a good idea. So I started like packing up my shit too. I even like gave some stuff to him to like have him pack up his stuff, because right after she said that, she like walked over to the car and like started to get
Oh
her dog out.
God.
Fortunately, she put the
That's
dog on a
creepy.
leash, but it was still weird. And so we got packed up and I just made some excuse. We were like, oh, like, we gotta keep hiking or whatever. And we bounced. So we were okay, thankfully, but definitely not the most fun experience, especially as someone personally who at the time, not so much anymore because I have a dog right there and he's chilling. But at the time I hadn't ever lived with a dog. I wasn't super comfortable around dogs. So the prospect of some lady on drugs, like bringing a dog out that could like potentially attack me, in her own words, was not super fun. So that was probably the sketchiest human encounter I've had. Not a good time.
I was hoping
we
you'd
were
have
okay.
some good